So we are recording this part about the earth around us tense, and I'm going to turn it over to Haley because she is like delving into the tense and it's her thing. And she's been really awesome about supporting all of you in the tent project and also developing the materials for it. So I am going to go silent. Haley.
Thanks. I'm gonna just give a really brief kind of overview of the tent project, and then I'll talk a little bit about how we're doing the programming here in New Hampshire. And then I'm going to turn it over to some of our Globe partners that also have tents so they can talk about how they've been using the tents in their area, which I'm really excited to hear. Very briefly, the tent program, the project began in 2016. We got a youth engagement grant from the Forest Service, and that kind of kicked off our development of the soil tent. We worked really closely with a soil scientist at the Forest Service, Andy Coulter, in that development. And then in 2021, we got some more funding from the Forest Service, which led to the development of the water tent. And also provided some funding for Globe partners. The Globe partners were able to develop their own tents. This was through a competitive process. So partners submitted a proposal, and the ones who were awarded the funding received funds to offset costs for materials and printing murals for the tents. With both the soil tent and the water tent, as we developed them, it was a really collaborative process. So we worked with scientists, we worked with educators and students at a number of different schools across New Hampshire to pilot the activities, the data collection, and then we also worked with artists. And the artists work with students, but also took student artwork and incorporated it into the final murals that we have as part of our tents. So here's like a little picture of both of our tents. And maybe if someone can stick our website in the chat, that would be awesome. So the soil and the water tent, I just grabbed a couple of pictures of things that come with the tent materials, the way that we do it in New Hampshire. But you can see that there are materials for kind of hands-on exploration, for doing globe data collection. With the soils, we're looking a lot at texture and soil color. With the water tent, we're looking at water quality, macroinvertebrates. The tents, as we develop them, have been mostly geared at an elementary level. So the protocols we're doing are more like temperature and pH. But we do, and our partnership now have some materials to loan out if middle or high school students are doing them so that they could do things like DO and dissolved oxygen and nitrates. Both of the tents, the kind of the activities were developed around the elementary Globe storybooks, The Scoop on Soils and Discovery at Willow Creek. So we really encourage reading those books ahead of time. The kids in the books sort of model the activities that the students might do as they go outside and engage with the tent. We also developed implementation guides, and those are available for anyone to use, whether or not you have a tent. They have a lot of links to activities. They have sort of flows of ideas of how to use the tent. We have some kind of age-appropriate data sheets and worksheets that we've developed to go along with the materials, some things to help them communicate about what they're learning. So there's a whole lot in there. I will note that we are in the process of migrating websites right now. So if you go to the website Alicia put in the chat, you'll see the water tent implementation guide, and the soil tent implementation guide should be up within the next week or two. So those are the tents. Here in New Hampshire, we run the tents really as a lending kit program. Beth Young is our coordinator. Some of you may have met Beth, and educators can request the tent for about a week at a time. So we're loaning out the tent and all those materials kind of on a weekly basis. If somebody is going to be able to hit a bunch of schools or a bunch of different festivals or something, they may get a longer time, but generally it's about a week. Beth will transport the materials within a certain radius. So I forget exactly where she set that. It might be like 20 miles or something. And after that, we ask people to come and meet us part way if they're further afield. For people that are new to the program, she will meet with them, do like a little orientation, often on Zoom, talk about the materials and the implementation and answer their questions. But once people have done the program, we get a lot of returners. They're really excited to use it again. And then one thing that we've learned through doing this program is that things break. So we've had a number of broken tents and other broken materials, which is totally understandable. The tent is going up and down every week, and we have thousands of students putting their hands on the materials. So having some kind of a maintenance budget is really helpful. Just yearly, we often have to replace things. And then the other thing we've developed is a loan agreement with the people borrowing the tent, just a sort of a set of expectations. You know, we know that there's going to be wear and tear, but here are the things we're expecting them to do, like take the tent in if there's a big storm or stake it down, ways that they're using the materials. And also really importantly, letting us know if something breaks quickly. We're often turning the tent around super fast. It's coming in one day and going out the next. And so having a heads up on that is really helpful for Beth to know if she needs to find a replacement or figure something out with the next group. So just in this academic year, we had over 3,500 students that engaged with the tent, 119 educators and 4 STEM professionals. So if scheduling works out, we try to connect people with a STEM professional that can come out and work with their students or their family, you know, the families or the public. So we're really excited about how many people are doing this. The tent's now moved on to summer camps and some science centers, so they're busy this summer as well. The program has been super popular. We started with 1 soil tent. We now have 4 tents that are circulating concurrently. So Beth is really busy. We have 2 water tents and 2 soil tents, and they're all going out very frequently. So it's really exciting how much it's grown, and the demand has been really high. And they've been used in schools. Science centers will use them for public engagement. We have people using them for like family STEM nights, 4-H events, festivals. So they're all over the place. They're hitting a lot of different types of events. Let's see. That was kind of our brief overview and how we're using this and running our program. And I really want to make sure there's time for our other partners to share. So feel free, if you have questions, put them in the chat. I did just want to share that we have on our website a develop your own tent page, which has material lists. So we have a spreadsheet with the materials that we use in our tent kits. We have implementation guides on our website. And then if you're interested in printing your own mural panels on the tent or in some other way, we are happy to share our artwork. The artwork is just stunning. Like, it's so beautiful to walk into the tent. And so we're really happy to spread that around, and you can get in touch with me if that's something you're interested in. And I'm going to stop there, and I think we could stop our share, and I'm going to turn it over to Amanda and Christina to share about how they're using the tent in Michigan.
Hello. Christina, are you able
Yes,
to?
the mute button
Okay,
was hiding
perfect.
from me, but I found it now. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about who we are and what we do with regards to the tent. I'm Christina Katniss, and my colleague Amanda and I will be telling you a bit about our new tent this year. We are from the Annis Water Resources Institute, which is a division of Grand Valley State University. We are located in Muskegon, Michigan, which is on the Lake Michigan shoreline. Handy map for you there. We are primarily focused on aquatic science and freshwater specifically in 3 interlocking spheres. So we have about a dozen faculty members at AWRI who are focused on various aspects of freshwater science, from fisheries to microbiology to environmental toxicology and everything in between. They're also training the next generation of aquatic scientists through our master's program as well as undergraduate internships. And then where Amanda and I sit is the outreach program. which reaches fourth through, no upper limit of age, fourth grade through all of the above, primarily through aquatic science cruises on the boat behind me, as well as another boat that docks in Grand Haven, where folks get to get out on Lake Michigan and adjoining inland lakes and get to be limnologists for the day. And we also offer land-based programming as a complement to those cruises, where we make the connection of how what happens on the land impacts the quality of the water and just how water moves through the world. We've used a lot of globe and globe-inspired tools in our programs, and the water tent has given us another one of those. So I will let Amanda tell you more about what we did with our tent so far.
Thanks, Christina. So our tent has a water theme, and we were able to get many supplies to go with the beautiful tent. Haley was not overselling the artwork. It is gorgeous. It is such a delight to see. And so with our tent, we have really focused a lot on macroinvertebrates. And so we have, to support that, macroinvertebrate sampling equipment, including the tubs and spoons and ice cube trays that you need to do with live macro collecting. But because we can't always get those live macros, we also have, we received some resin as a part of our materials, and we were able to cast many macroinvertebrates in resin. I think we have about 75 of them that we've made. And this is a few pictures of the process here. So we started with just the macros we had collected in some alcohol and preserved in alcohol. And then you can see in the middle picture there, we were casting the macros in the resin, a little bit of a learning curve with that, but we were very pleased with how they came out. And then in the final picture there, you can see a student using the macroinvertebrates with a dichotomous key to be able to figure out which macro they're holding. So those are some of the supplies. We also received digital microscopes handheld so that students can take a closer look at some of the things they're finding in the water, and then some hand lenses as well. We use this primarily in two different ways. We have some on-site programming that happens at our facilities at AWI in Muskegon, and then we also have special events that we take the tent to. So this year in our landside programming so far, we've used the materials with about 500 students in our on-site programming. And this, we don't always set up the tent completely with this, but what we do is we use a lot of the materials from the tent in this programming, and it really has enhanced what we're able to offer to students. They are really excited to see all the macroinvertebrates and to see what's living in the water. So that's been a really special add-on to our program this year. And we anticipate having about that number of students use the tent in the fall as well. And then we bring the tent to festivals. This is a picture of the tent set up at one of the festivals we did. We've had about 1,000 visitors over 5 different events so far. We have 3 more events that will be happening this summer, and really positive response from participants as they're able to engage with the macroinvertebrates and the other water quality parameters. So it's been a really positive thing for our program to have the water quality tent. Any questions?
I love the resin, casting the macro invertebrates and like using them to practice. I think that's, or when you can't get them, I think that's so cool. Where did you, like, are there instructions somewhere? Where did you learn how to do that?
I read a paper that gave some ideas, but a lot of it was trial and error. So one of my colleagues and I, we went through and did the process several times with increasing success each time. And thankfully, one of our science instructors has a very vast macroinvertebrate collection, which she was willing to share with us so that we could have many samples to work with.
That's so great. Would you be willing to share some of your tips?
Yeah, so with the resin, we were using resin that's the 1-to-1. So where you're mixing equal amounts of the 2 different components that go into the resin. And then we would mix up a layer and put it in the silicone trays. We had silicone trays that were used for candy making. So not candy we were making, but they worked really well for that. And we'd put in about a third of the resin that we needed, and then we'd set the macro on top of that, let that harden until it was able to hold the macro in place. That was the trick, was getting the macro to be held in place, and then adding another layer. Sometimes the little macro would float up again, and so then we just wait longer, and then put in a final layer to fit it right in the middle there of the resin piece.
Cool. Thank you.
Amanda, wasn't there something too with like the clarity of the epoxy if you mixed it more or less?
Yeah, so we found that the instructions did not have us mixing it enough. And so we really found that if we doubled or tripled the amount of mixing that was listed on the container, that we didn't get any of the bubbles or anything like that. The pieces are quite clear. So we were really pleased with how they came out, and the students are able to see all the details because we were able to fit the macros in there so you could see all the different legs or the number of tails and that sort of thing, so they can really get a good identification on what macro they have. Plus, then for macros that are more seasonal in appearance of their population, we're able to have all the different kinds that we would normally see in our area at once.
Thank you. If you have more questions for Amanda and Christina, feel free to keep putting them in the chat. Looks like Jody's going into business with your resin. And
That's
now,
Amanda's business. I'm just giving her
yeah,
an
oh, you're
idea.
giving her ideas. Okay, you're gonna have to take that one on, Amanda. And now Todd's gonna share a little bit about how he used his tent recently.
Okay. I guess I'll start a little bit at the beginning here. Some things that Haley mentioned. We learned about the tent project back in 2023 and applied for it then in the fall, and we're lucky enough to get one. Some things that Haley mentioned, I really wanted to mention again. And I don't know whether Haley or somebody there at UNH developed these things, but we were really interested in the NASA activities, the introduction to making observations of the Earth using the Earth system approach. And that included like a teacher's guide, student guide, a NASA resource where you could kind of go through satellite imagery, that type of thing. And also the how to do an outline and the taking notes, that type of thing. So those came in really handy too. And there were some video resources, if I remember right there. So we started with a water tent, and we went through the elementary teacher's guide and the Discovery at Willow Creek storybook and activities that Haley had also mentioned. And we were fortunate enough, because it comes with the tent then, to get the supplies that kind of support the tent. And it was the typical things like Haley had in her little slide there. But we're also, and basically I was playing around, to be honest, trying to get away from the dissolved oxygen kits with the chemicals, because the teachers really don't like them anymore. So I actually ordered a dissolved oxygen meter, and it was perfect, to be honest. However, I'm not sure, it's great to loan out, and we do that, but it's one of those things that a typical teacher doing this probably couldn't afford to do. So that was one of the nice things about this, that we could do some things that got us away from the chemical kits, so to speak. So I did want to mention that. The first use of it was rather interesting in that we did this water tent with a group from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and Millersville University. Those two organizations were in a collaboration with senior citizens, and it was part of Millersville's University, their, well, get this correct, their College of Graduate Studies and Adult Learning. So basically, they have classes and events for senior citizens at the university. And they were trying to beef up those activities. And somehow, some way, I don't know which, and I was never told how, they learned about the GLOBE program. So a person from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation contacted me, and then we worked with the university. And long story short, we developed a series of meetings with senior citizens as citizen scientists. We met with them once a month for 3 months. And then on the fourth month, we actually went out in the field to a stream a nice size stream that runs through the property at Millersville University, and ended up doing a lot of the globe hydrology protocols. And they also brought in some outside people from Chesapeake Bay Foundation and did a lot of collection of macroinvertebrates also. So it was a really nice day. Basically, we started about 9 in the morning, didn't finish till late in the afternoon, but we had a great time doing it. And it's something that went so well. The university plans on doing this every year now. Basically, they want to do it in the fall and in the spring. So kind of looking forward to that and kind of hoping we can do that with them again this fall. Tentatively, we're planning on it, but as you all know, we need to wait and see whether we can follow through with that. So this summer, uh, working with a nature center, it's called Buttonwood Nature Center in South Central Pennsylvania, and they are running a series of camps. And part of the agenda on their camps or their schedule, they're doing a lot of water quality studying because they have streams and 2 different ponds and that kind of stuff. So basically, they're running some camps, summer camps, both. They have 2 this July and 1 in August yet. So I'm loaning that tent to them because back in 2021 we started, because I remember it was COVID and all that. We started training them in globe protocols. So they have a staff of about 5 or 6 people who are already trained in doing the globe hydrology protocols. So those staff are going to run their summer camps, use the water tent and the equipment. So that's kind of how we planned on using it.
Awesome. Thanks, Todd, for sharing. If we have questions for Todd, maybe let's throw them in the chat because I want to make sure there's some time for Jody to present. And Jody's ready with her background, her soil tent background, which is awesome. So Jody, I'm going to turn it over to you now. I think you're muted though.
Let's try that again. It's been a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of tents. This has just really been just a lot of fun. It's really made us rethink about what we do and how we do it. So I work with a school district that's has a K-4 primary school. And for 3 summers, we were doing a summer camp. It was really summer school. Kids had behind in math and reading. They come to summer school. Principal's really visionary, and she wanted to make sure there was some enrichment, some really good stuff, right, to go along with the fact that these kids are behind in math and reading. So she brought us in, Excite Learning, my business and our Globe partnership, to do some summer programming, 4 weeks out of the summer for 3 years, and we did a lot of Globe. That's really what we did. And so this year we had the soil tent and we wrote for a water tent, and she said, well, let's blow this up and do a big festival, and I want all kids to be a part of it. And so I said, all kids, okay, this will be interesting because there's 400 students. And then you think about the size of a tent, you're like, okay, how are we going to do this? She wanted it to be for the whole school. She wrote a grant through the state for $15,000 to do it. In Ohio, we have STEM designated schools. This is actually a STEAM with the arts in it, designated school. And in order to keep your designation, you have to show that you're doing STEAM with the whole building. So that's why her whole school approach was really important to her. So again, we said it was K-4. And so when we set out thinking about how we could do this to get all students through the tent and have a really good experience with them, we decided to break them up into 2 groups, a morning group and an afternoon group of about an hour and 45 minutes each. And I knew that the activities in the tent weren't enough to keep 200 kids engaged, so we added other activities. So in total, we had 11 activities, but really 22 stations. Like you see in the photo, we duplicated every activity so that there would just be more table space, to be honest. So that if a class of 20 came to the tent, there's 2 tables, 2 groups of 10, and 2 leaders and 2 sets of materials so that we could give them all more of a hands-on experience rather than too many kids around one table. That's what we were really worried about. So it ended up being about 9 or 10 students at a table as we moved around. We set like a 10-minute period at each station, and we found out that was too short for the lower grades. We needed probably 15 minutes for K and 1, maybe even 2, iffy on that. But grades 3 and 4, they just cruised through. That was not a problem at all. Oh, the teachers wanted a rotation schedule. Like I'm kind of like loosey goosey. I'm like, free flow, just go from station to station. And they're like, no way, that's not going to work. So we really had a schedule, and every 10 minutes they rotated, and they knew where they were rotating next. So they went from station 3 to station 4 and so forth. So they all had a schedule. We needed some activity leaders, right, to pull all this off. So we had to pay some people, and then we got some volunteers, and we thank our friends at the University of Toledo. Globe Mission Earth came with a big team and their tents. So we had 2 soil tents and 2 water tents. And we had our soil and water district in Ohio, our Lucas County one join us, and the Toledo Zoo, who's also part of our partnership. So we had quite a team presenting. We created this journal, and you have the link there. Maybe somebody could put that in the chat for us. And so there's the field journal link that we created with just to outline those 11 activities, give the students a little something to record while they were there, at feeling and acting like a scientist. And then we gave them a badge, a little sticker, an Earth Day sticker, when they completed each activity so that they could feel good about what they did. You'll also see there's a printer-friendly version of this if you like the journal, because, you got to get it to flip right and to be, so that you can, we made little half page, like this size booklets out of it so that it would all open and flip correctly. We have the printer version. It's available there. So in the soil tent, we did these activities. So we did soil texture, and we really had the kids practicing sieving, using the sieve activity. So we had them see how they could, and Sarah at the University of Toledo showed me the sieve she was using, and how she was using these, really inexpensive sieves with young learners, and it worked out great. So we just had them figure out how many groups they can make using the sieves of soil based on particle size. And then they also did the ribbon test. And so we had in the journal, directions on the left and something for them to check off on the right. And I know Amanda and Christine talked about using microscopes. This is the microscope we use, and I think even you can click on here and get to the link on Amazon. They range in price between $30 and $40 or $50 now, I think, with the tariffs. But so these are great for young learners, because literally, I mean, they zoom in really nicely, and there's only one thing for them to do. They put the microscope down on the thing, and they turn one knob, and they can bring them into focus really quickly. So we were really happy with those. We used them both in the soil tent and in the water tent. We also did the little soil activity from Elementary Globe, where they create a profile with using carpet tape. And so this is the real profile that we pulled out of the schoolyard, the prairie, and they then would create their little model using the carpet tape by sticking the soil onto the tape. And then they would take home a soil tube and shake it up and look at the layering and so forth. So those are some of the activities we did. Within the water tent, macros were the big hit, which we had the resins. I thought about making them. I'm still nervous, Amanda and Christine. I'm going to try it, but I'm a little nervous about it. But luckily, Sarah and I went down to the river. This was the end of May, and we collected some things, and we found some macros. So the kids actually had macros to look at, and they played with hand lenses and the microscopes and so forth. We also did water quality. We used quick tests, K through 4. We couldn't do the Lamont or the other kits, but we did do little quick and easy kits with them. And then we also did some water temperature and turbidity. One of the activities I wanted to share with you, it's not related to the tents, but I think I would always add it at a festival. It worked out really well. We had iPads out. We had put in a purple air device during one of the summer programs. So we created this map for the kids, and we put a star right where Waterville, their city, is. And we had them first look at purple air to find out what the air quality was of their city. And they started using a Q-tip and watercolor and put one dot on the star representing whatever the air quality was that day. And then we had them zoom and look at all of the United States and even North America, Canada, and Mexico, and they could start dotting up their maps with watercolor to see if they can make a model of what the purple air looked like that day. And then finally, we did some pre-work too. So before the festival and before the tent, and this is, again, comes out of the tent program, to have them do some work ahead of time seems to really help, because it gets the teachers engaged, the students ready, and so forth. So we did some activities out of Elementary Globe, and we put them in kits, like a Tupperware container, and just one activity, I thought, So I tried to find ones that were closely related to the Ohio standards and then also to some of the other globe work we've been doing and the activities that they would see at the festival. So those are the ones that we chose. And we also did a color a pixel activity that we learned at another water cooler. And I went in and found a Landsat image of the Maumee River and leading right up to Waterville. So we used that image. And then we also set up a practice station in the cafeteria where they could, like kind of a mock instrument shelter where they could take air temperature, and I even had a bucket of soil and a probe down in a soil temperature, and they would write their temperatures on a data sheet and throw it into a box. And I drew for a free microscope that they got to take home. They could enter the raffle by just practicing collecting data. And we did both those activities for about a month leading up to the festival. And then the what else, you know, if we, what did we learn, lesson learned? We needed 2 professional development days to get ready for this. I think that really helped our tent experience because teachers knew what was going on and what we were doing and how they could support that in the classroom. And so we led them through the teachers through cloud, air, and soil and precipitation protocol training. They were all certified globe educators by the time we were done. And I think the key for us was organization, communication, and just making sure we were really ready for the 400 students that were about to come through, all the way down to, like, you see little bags with handles, just so they could take the stuff that we were making and put it somewhere as they were moving from station to station. So that's our show.
Thanks, Jody. And Jody, also, their tent walls are different than ours.
Oh, yeah,
Behind
thanks.
her, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so the one that you see behind us, you know, when I first got the soil tent, I guess I missed the memo that we could just ask for the murals that were in the tent because they're so beautiful. You're right. And so I thought we were supposed to make our own mural, and I thought, well, we're at the summer camp anyway. So one year at the summer camp, we just went into the. It was perfect because we had heat advisories, so we needed to get out of the heat. We were outside every day, all day, but for a couple days, we just went inside, and I put out a big piece of black paper and we made our own mural, soil mural, and it called for using pastels. And my daughter's an art major. She goes, "You're going to use pastels with K-4?" I go, "I don't know, I thought so." She goes, "Don't do it. They're too messy, and you know they're going to be covered and everything else." So we just use little squares of paper, and we just had the kids just start to make these murals based on using little squares of paper. And it was really awesome because you could see content coming through. So for example, the one black line across the third of the paper is supposed to show the difference between, you know, sky and earth, and anything above is sky and anything below is down in the soil. And in the sky, they said, we need 2 colors of blue paper or more. And I go, "Why do you need 2 colors?" They go, "Well, because, you know, the sky isn't the same color. Over your head, it's dark blue, and over to the horizon, it's light blue." And so that just really meant something to me, the fact that they were picking up on those nuances and were really a little upset that I only brought out 1 color of blue. So yeah, so we made a soil mural, but for the water tent, we actually did just use the beautiful artwork that you had ready for us.
That's awesome, Jody. I love how yours turned out. I think it's so cool. And in our implementation guide, we have lots of soil art ideas, including Jody's mosaic. And we've had art teachers in our lending program. We've had the art teachers get on board and do some soil art while the tent is visiting, or mixing soil into paint or that kind of thing. So that's been a really fun piece. Does anyone have any questions for any of the presenters?
Christina asked, which DO probe did you get? And would you recommend it, Todd? And how cumbersome was the calibration, especially if you're loaning it?
I'm typing that in the chat right now.
It is so cool what everyone has done with the tents. It's just so, it was an incredible like opportunity years ago. And then, you know, we did not know how successful it was going to be. I mean, we had to hire somebody in order to manage it because it was so popular. So it's just one of those things where you think it's not, you know, like, oh, this is great. It's a great offering. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, everybody wants the tents.